I'm Joshua Graham with Dig It, and this is
Elinor Predota, and I'm a storyteller and social researcher. And I've been part of the Dig It project, involved with a storytelling and historical object engagement event, I suppose you'd call it, here in Edinburgh, called Skin and Stone.
Tell us a little bit about the artifacts you used to sort of draw inspiration for your story.
Yeah, at the Surgeons' Hall Museum in the pathology side.
Where we are right now.
They have a small collection as part of their wider collection of tattoos, which are pieces of skin that have been preserved with the tattoos on them, mainly from the 19th century. And one of them is a sailor's tattoo with swallows and a ship, and two of them are of deserters' tattoos, where if somebody deserted from the army or the navy, they were tattooed with a great big black D, which is about that big, somewhere where it would be reasonably obvious to the people around them as a mark of stigma. Then along on Chambers Street at the National Museum of Scotland, there is an item that they think was used for cursing from the Highlands of Scotland, which is a hollow bone, a small hollow bone about the size of my forefinger, through a chunky piece of bog oak, which is oak that's been in a peat bog and has become blackened. And
oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's actually in a display full of all sorts of other things, but that item is quite special. And then also over at Greyfriars Kirkyard, which is just at the end of Chambers Street, there is a lot of amazing engravings on gravestones and tombs, but the one that really struck me was at the very top of one of the most ornate tombs within the kirkyard. It's possibly a gargoyle, but it struck me, it looked like a devil because it had horns and a big gruesome face. So I used all of those artifacts and wove them all together into the story.
So as a social researcher and storyteller, what's it like to be able to be here in Edinburgh and weave a story together about three things that are a 15-minute walk away from each other?
It was really wonderful for me to be able to bring together the social research aspect with the storytelling aspect, because to an extent in the ordinary work of a social researcher, you're telling stories about your research, you're telling stories about the people that you've researched, whether they're living or whether they're dead as part of history, or you're sharing their stories that they have told you. But actually to be able to weave a story together to make something that I can then tell as a storyteller rather than deliver a paper on or write something quite dry is a real joy for me, because it gives people an opportunity to almost become part of that moment, whether it's a moment in history or it's a moment in society, in which you just can't get from a written report or a more academic talk.
And so Surgeons' Hall Museums, National Museum, Greyfriars Kirkyard, anyone can go and see these things that you talked about? Absolutely,
yes. And they are all very quick walk from each other, and they all have amazing, both the museums have amazing collections, and the Greyfriars Kirkyard is fascinating from a historical perspective, from a social perspective, and it's just a really beautiful and interesting place to visit as well.
Thank you.